What is happening, everybody? Welcome to the Social Media Suck Show. I'm your host, Sebastian Rusk. As always, hey, welcome to the show. My guest this week and trusty co-host, we got a couple shows this week. My buddy, Scott Monty, I believe he is that way, if we look at it correctly, that way here. Scott and I met a few years back at the very information-driven and entertaining Social Fresh Conference, where I believe that was during your time with Ford Motor Company, and we quickly hit it off. Clearly, with the bow ties, we had something to talk about here, and it's been fun to follow your journey. I think that was probably 2013, maybe.
That sounds about right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's been fun to follow your travels through Ford and over to Shift, and now rocking and rolling with the Scott Monty Empire. So tell us all about that. Let's back up a little bit. Got out of school. Did you go right into the marketing and advertising world?
Well, I went from undergraduate to get my master's in medical science concurrently with my MBA in healthcare management. So my whole idea was to become a double threat to the medical industry. This is back when managed care was still in upheaval. I mean, look, we still aren't too far away from that today. But I figured, you know what, the administration side of medicine was going to need more people with scientific knowledge, with medical knowledge, rather than just these cold-hearted administrators. Sure. So that was the play there. After working for about 3 years in managed care, that novelty wore off, let me just say.
Sure. And
from there, I went into biotech and pharmaceutical consulting. And that was right around the .com and September 11th bust. And after that, I went to work for an advertising agency that specialized in healthcare and high tech. And the high tech angle is how I started getting interested in, more of this up and coming social media stuff as it was becoming known, and just started writing about it, interacting with people about it, becoming really curious. And eventually I left that agency, went to work for a consultancy called Crayon that did nothing but social media strategy for big brands. And then Ford heard about me and scooped me up, and the rest is history.
It really is history because, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were really one of the initial pioneers to jump on board on the C level with a large brand and within a specific market like the auto industry, and bring them social. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Well, I wasn't the first. I probably became one of the most well-known.
That's the word I was looking for.
My friend Chris Barger, who I had known from his time at IBM, where he was the chief blogger over there, he had taken up the mantle at General Motors shortly before I got to Ford. And I had called him up and asked him for some advice and counsel, kind of bringing me through it. And he's a wonderful colleague. He moved on from GM about 2 years before I moved on from Ford. He's with Voce Communications now. But what we did is we always had kind of a friendly rivalry in public. But GM's social strategy up until that point was very different than what we determined Ford's to be. GM was all about corporate blogging and the standard fare that you knew then.
Sure.
When I came into Ford, we were at a crisis point, and we didn't really have a lot of time to reflect. And I had my own accounts on Twitter and Facebook and the like, and I just leveraged my personal accounts because that's what I knew how to do, and that's where there were other people that I was already interacting with. It's where people were following me already. And as we began to get through the crisis and to think about our strategy with a little more a level-headedness, shall we say, we thought, well, look, Ford Motor Company is synonymous with Henry Ford. I mean, his name is still on the logo today. And he was with the company for 40 years, its first 40 years. He's one of these iconic businessmen like Steve Jobs or Thomas Edison, right? And we thought, well, the company itself has been humanized all of these years. Why don't we continue the humanization strategy on social media and put our people out there? And that's what I led for a good 6 years.
And and I think I've heard you talk about this in the past. Just an incredible relationship with American Idol. During your time there, you got a chance to meet my remote mentor and somebody that I look up to in a ridiculous way, Mr. Ryan, very talented Mr. Ryan Seacrest. That must have been fun because not only are you already working with a large brand, not only are you a really big deal because you're one of the most well-known individuals doing what you do there, but then you get a chance to work with one of the most popular shows ever, and also a major network. What was that like?
Well, that was interesting because what it allowed us to do I don't remember what night it was on back then, maybe Wednesday night. I would pop onto Twitter, and remember, this is when Twitter was a much different place. We're talking about 09 and 10 or so, and just see what people were saying about our commercials and our show integration. Ford, I love the Mustang. Ford, your commercials suck. Whatever it is, right? And we would just take it all in, and occasionally we would reply back. Either as the corporate entity or even me individually, but usually as the Ford account. And people would get freaked out, right? That this company was like, there were like two reactions. One was, whoa, this is creepy, right? Which, hey, genius, you're on a public platform. What do you expect, right? Or two, how cool is that a company took the time to listen to me and responded to my concerns or my love for the brand or whatever it is. And it endeared them to Ford. Now, it didn't necessarily mean they were going to go out and buy a car tomorrow, but it started changing the perception of the brand, which was really our corporate mission, was to improve Ford's reputation and to help build purchase consideration, right? So every little thing we did in instances like that, whether it was a major execution like American Idol or a single interaction on Twitter, was meant to do that.
Okay, cool. I actually locked my screen on accident. I'm like, no, don't go anywhere, Vlad. So no, I followed that, and the thing that really caught my eye above and beyond, obviously, it being very obvious that there was a strong relationship between, still is, I think, with Ford and American Idol. In fact, I think I was just watched the final season, and I haven't watched every season, but ever since I started probably 6 years ago with the whole social buzz thing and deciding that I am, in fact, going to be on television someday, somehow, somewhere, I started to just follow Ryan Seacrest's every move, because the guy, not only is he just the new Dick Clark and the new king of Hollywood, essentially just replacing the greats, he's just good. And there's never any dirt around him. It's just it seems like he's got a solid, profitable brand under his belt. I think he's reeling in close to 80 or 90 million a year. Just as his. So I started to, I follow him and I watch the show because of that. And of course you get reeled in, etc. But the Ford integration part of it is so natural because it's kind of, I think it's a music video that integrates, I guess, the idols that are into the process. But I thought, well, what a very natural integration. There's no real buy a Ford, buy a Ford, buy a Ford. It's more like, if you're a fan of American Idol, then it's kind of a big conglomerate there. So I thought that was neat. And that must have been a lot of fun to be able to. I saw that picture and I'm like, so I'm one step closer to meeting Seacrest. Scott Monty met him. He's a little guy, huh?
Yeah, he is. He's not that tall. What always struck me about the brand integrations in American Idol, and feel free to disagree with me.
Sure.
The three major brands from the early days. And I haven't watched it in a few years, so pardon me if I'm not up to speed. But it was always Coca-Cola, AT&T, and Ford. Right?
Sure.
Three iconic American brands through and through. Right. So American Idol, obviously that makes a connection. Coke was easy because you had the cups on the desk when the judges were doing their thing, and they always cut away to the scene of the judges, and there's Coke glasses there, Coke cups. Fine. Right. AT&T, that was essential in the earlier days because they were providing the data plans to call in and text your phone, right? So a product integration there. Ford, to me, always seemed the odd man out, a little bit different than the others. One of these kids is not like the other. Because what are you going to do with a car on a music show, but the way Ford actually inserted themselves to enable the performers to do their thing, right, and wove themselves into the fabric of the video, rather than it being all about Ford, like you just said. I thought that was really, really artful, and that kind of integration went on to inform other things that we did at Ford during my time there, where it wasn't all about the brand, right? And I think in this day and age, a lot of people get turned off by the brands that are like, hey, look at us, pay attention to us, retweet us, look at our stuff, versus taking the time to put the customer front and center. And if you're talking about, say, storytelling, for example, the hero of the story is not the brand. The hero of the story should be the customer, right? The brand is a minor character in the story that hopefully enables the customer to do whatever it is that they need to do.
Sure.
It's not all about the brand.
Well, the initial, and you're exactly right, and I can totally see that where you're coming from pertaining to that. What I always thought of when I see it, I still do. In fact, I watched the show last week, or I've got a DVR and I watch it whenever I get a chance to. But it's always like, oh, that's what the idols are up to, during the week. In between shows. I mean, it kind of gave that, and I think that was probably some of the angle, because you're right. What are we going to do? Have Seacrest drive a Fiesta out on stage? I mean,
that's about his size.
This is true. Yeah, I was like, somebody met him here in Miami one time a few years back, and they're like, he's really short. I'm like, good. When I finally find him, he'll be easy to kidnap. I'm kidding. I'm not going to kidnap you, Seacrest. I will not kid you. I wouldn't even know where to start. So and another thing that stuck in my mind about your time at Ford was when you came down and talked with the Social Media Club of South Florida here in Miami when you were in town, and you really talked about, and it's no wonder that Ford was Ford one of the first to go social, or was it GM?
GM was before us, but by the time I got on board, we blew past them.
Right, exactly. And because of, I remember the involvement that you had with developers and people that were actually utilizing the sync technology. And that really stuck in my mind, because you were like, hey, listen, if you've got an idea for an app for sync, we work with people to be able to. Right. So it's no wonder that system has been able, and I've been able to experience that several times. I've dropped a few Fords off over the past few years, had a chance to tinker around with that. And it's so, I think about Blab when I think about like the customer interaction as far as the launch is concerned. I mean, these guys, if you tweeted @help right now in the comments, they would hop on and solve a problem right then and there. I believe that is a powerful component for a brand to embrace, which a lot still don't, when developing technology. And what did you see the technology going as far as it did with sync and the development of everything without being able to have the hands-on with developers and people within the community?
Oh yeah, I think that was a really essential part of what Ford did, because it's one thing to just be out there and interacting with people online and talking a good game and doing all these snazzy things with your marketing. If you don't back it up with your actual behavior and the actual way that the brand interacts with customers, not just online, but it was essential in kind of extending that corporate culture, right? So it went hand in hand with everything that was going on in social. So, for example, if you're gonna get out there and bring tech bloggers in to go to auto shows or converse with them on forums or on Twitter or wherever, it absolutely makes sense to integrate them into your product development, to make them a part, and to open the API and do other things that all the cutting edge technology companies are doing, right? So I think Ford at that point was viewing itself more of as a technology company rather than just as an automotive company.
Right, and that's a huge differentiator. I mean, and also a very brave, a brave stance, if you will, because I believe the mentality would be we're not a technology company, we're a car company, right? Yeah. But to be able to have both. So Ford was obviously a great run, and with all good things, they come to an end, and new opportunities open up, and there's constantly doors flying open all over the place. Walk us through what was the transition as far as, I think my time at Ford is done, and it's time to move on to greener pastures. Not that Ford's pasture isn't green.
No, and Ford's still doing some wonderful things. Just watch their the live stream of their press conference at the North American International Auto Show. You know, there's talk about being a mobility company, doing leases where up to six people can share a single car. You know, with the recognition that this isn't about ownership anymore; it's about access. So I think that's important that the company continues to evolve. For my thing, you know, a lot of the stuff I did at Ford internally was education and you know, just helping people adapt, and it was almost like an internal consulting role. Even though my role was mostly external facing, I did this internally just to help bring the company up to speed. And a lot of people said, "Hey, you should go into consulting." And I was like, yeah, whatever. You know, I'm not really ready for it. And hey, we have Adapting Social. We'll get to you in just a second here.
All right, I'm just listening. I don't want to interrupt you. Keep going. When Alan Mullally announced his departure, I felt there was a great void, and I had never met a leader like Alan Mullally before. I mean, this guy was through and through the real deal. He valued people. He was all about transparency. He was about sharing knowledge rather than hoarding knowledge, which Ford had been notorious for up until that point. And it just fit really well with all the things that my team was trying to accomplish in the social and communication space. So with him leaving, there was a bit of a void. And, you know, these people have been telling me you should go into consulting. You know, I wasn't ready to go from a Fortune 10 company to a sole proprietorship. That's a big step, right? About the biggest step you can take. So I joined my friends at Shift Communications as kind of an internal executive consultant to their team, and did that for a while, remained here in Michigan, and finally decided that the time was right for me and I was comfortable being off on my own. You know, and part of that was just having confidence in my ability to act as a sole proprietor, to start building good connections with my pipeline, and you know, just continuing to stay current in all the trends.
Sure. Scott, that's called playing your cards right, buddy.
Well, I'm following your lead, my man.
Well, hey, listen, I just jumped, okay? So I'm like, that's it. I'll never forget it. I remember like it was yesterday. I came back, and I think I got fired from my 15th sales job, and I'm a horrible employee. I show up late, insubordinate. I leave early. I don't come in Friday, but I'm a top salesman. But I remember I came home and I said, all right, I'm either going to go get the newspaper. Yeah, we used to actually look for jobs in that thing. Or I'm just going to go to IKEA and I'm going to buy a desk and I'm going to get the yellow pages and I'm just going to start cold calling because I'm going to work for this bozo. I can just work for myself. And that was it. I never looked back. It has not been easy by any means, but I look at it this way: sole proprietorship, entrepreneurship, working on your own. Listen, if you're going to have financial stress, I'm going to create it. I'm not going to have some dude or I'm punching the clock telling me that I'm late and I can't play golf on Friday. So, but I don't know how we got into
fuck that noise.
Yes, absolutely. Adapting Social. What's up, man? What's your name?
What's going on, man? My name is John. I own Adapting Social. I'm president of the company. What we do is we are a full service digital marketing agency. We're based out of a few miles out of New York. We do everything from web design, digital marketing, social media management, all kinds of media buying. You know, we do consulting. So that's why when he said newspaper, I was like, what is he talking about?
That was a great plug.
And you know what? I'm worried about you getting hit by traffic there in Times Square.
Hey, listen, I'm good, man. I only go to. I'm not in the city. I'm near it.
No, it's your backdrop.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. You know, you guys got to do something about those yellow cabs. Those should be Uber cars back there, not yellow cabs.
That's an older picture.
Really?
And this picture, that doesn't exist. If that was today's picture, it'd be all black cars.
This is true.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Well, I love the entrepreneurial conversation. Just so you guys know, I just got involved in this platform today. One of my associates told me about it. I jumped on. At first, it was a bit odd. I jumped in a conversation that some guy was talking about how he loved ants, and he had like an ant thing. And then I was like, oh, I don't know if this is a platform for me. And then I found business entrepreneurship, found you guys. It's some good conversation.
Sure. Yeah, you were asking about the title. You know, you only get it's this guy. You only get you only get 70 characters, I think. And usually I try to keep the theme consistent with the Social Media Suck Show, and I put the guest name. And usually I want something that's relevant to right now. Social media marketing, social media in 2016. And we usually kind of run the gamut within. I use the show description when I post and share it, et cetera, elsewhere. But that was kind of the vague. But hey, welcome to the Blab platform. It is it's growing leaps and bounds. The team at Blab are just been incredible. Scott and I were briefly chatting about that a few minutes ago. They're very much hands-on. I mean, they would hop in right now if there was a problem and try to fix it or answer questions, et cetera. But here's what I like best about it is that I'm able to extract 4 pieces of content for an hour of my time a week. I've got a live show. I've got a video for YouTube. I've got a video for Facebook, and I've got a blog post that I can crank out all with under 90 minutes. And I just think that's extremely powerful stuff. Excuse me, my podcast. So, I want to meet people exactly where they're at, but we're living in a very organic, content-driven environment. We can't just
Right.
There's a lot of noise out there. What are you talking about? And how are you differentiating your contribution to the noise?
Listen, the big thing, and I agree with you totally on that, because in 2016, moving forward, right now, everything is video. Video content is huge right now in the world of marketing. Yeah. Social media. My company, we have clients in over 7 different states across the U.S. And the big thing, though, is I wouldn't have reached them if, because Facebook organically, social media organically sucks. It really does. Like, you can't reach anybody without spending $1 on Facebook. You know what I'm saying? So the thing is, having video content, you can reach people more than you originally without boosting a post or dark posting, all other shit. So the good thing, though, is that things like this platform enable marketers like ourselves to reach a higher audience. You know what I'm saying? Than we would be on Facebook.
Yeah, you're talking to people that you wouldn't ordinarily talk to. Absolutely. Hey, listen, we got to get back to the show, but thanks for jumping on and saying hello. Come back soon, will you?
Absolutely.
Thanks, brother. I see some familiar faces in the room as well, too. And a quick, we'll pause for a quick station identification. This is the Social Media Suck Show. I'm your host, Sebastian Ruskin. That's my trusty co-host and guest this week, Mr. Scott Monty, my bow tie brother. I was thinking, Scott, we need to do like a bow tie tying contest, and we'll have it videoed. Maybe we could time lapse it.
Right? Is that a tie yourself right there?
It was. Oh, you think I would fake the funk on a nasty dunk? You bet I tie. Now, I've gotten to the point I can actually tie them without even looking.
Go, do it.
All right, let's see.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'll do mine too, all right?
Here we go. Without even looking. So this is called good content right here. Okay, so
you do have the
most important thing. Okay, it's kind of like a similar tie. You're going to throw it over shoulder, pull a rabbit out of the hole. There we go. Then you got to make the bow. Then you got to flip it over. And then you got to find the hole at the back of the bow. Got to make another bow.
While you're vamping there, we got Hip Hop Hobby Club on here.
Yeah.
Question: why does social media suck?
Well, social media sucks if you don't know what you're doing. And that's actually the name of my book, and of which Scott was a generous contributor to on the back cover. Every time I love giving my book out, people are like, "Oh, Scott Monty." I'm like, "Yeah, I know Scott."
Wow.
So, that was very strategic. I got you, Brian Kramer, Mark Schaefer, Ted Rubin, everybody that I'd met at Social Fresh and either interviewed, had a conversation, cocktail, all the above with. And when my publisher said, "What do you want to do with the back cover?" I'm like, "I don't know. What do you do with back covers? I have no idea." And somebody said, "Hey, why don't you get your friends together and have them give you a quick blurb?" I was like, That's a great idea.
Good job.
So lots of familiar faces in here. Janet Johnson's in the house. Vincent's in the house. Any of you guys want to hop on, say hello to Scott? Got a question? Feel free to do that. We're going to be rocking and rolling here for about another 20 minutes or so. So
here's the deal. I beat you on the bow tie contest, but I'm going to beat you in one other way. I'm going to show you a close up of my bow tie.
Mm-hmm.
You see that?
Yes, sir.
You know what that is?
I do not know what that is.
That's a bird's eye view of snowmen.
That is fantastic.
That's a shout out to all of our East Coast friends that are bracing for Snowmageddon this coming weekend.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. Janet Johnson, she's in Minnesota. She said the wind chill is 35 degrees. I was like, my goodness.
Forget it. So enough about the weather. What else is on your mind? What are we covering here?
So you were at Shift for a little while, and then you decided it was time to enter the world of soulpreneurship. How's that been going? What type of stuff have you been working on, and what's really been the exciting part of doing your own thing?
Sure. So yeah, I decided to become shiftless. Many people thought I already was. So in June of last year, I launched Scott Monty Strategist. And the play there is to become an executive advisor for brands and agencies that are looking to do communications and marketing a little better. Now, my specialty obviously is in digital, but being at Ford when I also had exposure to influencer marketing, to crisis communications, did a lot of work directly with our executives. So executive communication is part of that. And then just overall strategy. Right. I think there are so many instances when folks see all these new tools coming out, particularly in the social space, and more, on a mobile device. And I want to get into, kind of some of those in a little bit. But they're just willing to jump on to these tools and make a presence without necessarily thinking through strategically how it fits with their overall business plan. Right. And my goal is to help back up the truck a little bit and help people start thinking more strategically in the digital space. Now that's kind of the consulting arm of my business. I sometimes help agencies with new business pitches where they're going into a pitch with a large corporation, and they bring me on to help them buff up the strategy and the deck, maybe even into the pitch. But I also advise executives on major Fortune 100 companies as well. That's consulting. On the other side, I do public speaking. Obviously, that's a way to fill the pipeline for my consulting practice. But over time, what I'd like to do is to focus more on public speaking. I enjoy the stage. I like connecting with live audiences and getting their feedback and interacting with them. That's going to feed into another topic I want to talk about in a little bit. But if I could do that on a full-time basis, it would give me time to do the other things I like to do and, do consulting just when I feel I want to rather than when I need to.
Sure. Yeah, and I'm in the same boat. The speaking game, I was born to be on stage, and I just, how the $1 million question, how do you get booked full-time to speak? And I've been really involved with NSA over the past 3 years. And I was trying to decide, what am I doing here with NSA? I went to their annual conference 2 years ago, and I called them. I said, listen, you guys don't know me. I'm a professional speaker, well, at least in my eyes. Doing a lot of speaking. Some people pay me, some people don't. But I've heard about you guys, the National Speakers Association, and people bring me to their events to create buzz. I run around with a bow tie, and I take pictures, and I create content, and kind of consider me media. Are you guys inviting any media to the conference? And they're like, no, but we'd love to have you. So I went for the first year. It was in Philadelphia, and that's where I met my publisher at the conference. And Jay Baer keynoted that year, had the main stage at NSA, which is a huge honor. And Jay's, as you know, just an all around just swell guy. And he was there, and over a beer casually that night, I said, hey, listen, we're talking about a deal with a book, and they need a social strategy, and we're figuring this out. And he's like, do it. I said, great. Will you write the forward? And he said, absolutely. So I thought, well, now I know why I came to NSA, but more important is that I thought, well, we have 2,000 professional speakers in this conference right now, right? This is the land of narcissism, like at its finest, right? But I thought there has to be more of a reason other than getting a book deal and seeing some friends that are here, why I'm here. And I go, NSA is about your peers, and it's about trading war stories and better understanding. It's not really about business. Sometimes it is, because very rarely do we get booked to speak twice, right? But hey, I know another great social media speaker, Scott, and that goes back and forth. But I've been able to forge some really awesome relationships with guys that are doing this full time, that do make 7 figures a year, and that's all they do. And they've been doing it for 20 plus years. Right. And I've been able to forge those relationships just through conversations like this and being able to interview them. But the number one thing I ask, and they get asked, is how do you get booked full time to speak? And I think that every time I ask that question, he said, if you want to speak more, speak more. and that's really been it.
There's a great resource out there right now. I'm trying to think if I've got the book here. It's over on my shelf, called "Steal the Show" by Michael Port, and he does
he's great.
An accompanying podcast called "Steal the Show," and it's all about public speaking, how to become a better speaker, how to break into it, etc. And I was listening to one of the episodes last night, and I said, if you're just starting out, if you've never done public speaking before, and you know it's something that you want to do, then find local events, find free events, things where you can, kind of get your chops and,
sure.
and become known, and practice, right? All sorts of great advice in that resource. So it's worth checking out.
Yeah, he's great. He is fantastic. I do follow his stuff. This, I worked with Advantage Media Group was the name of my publisher, AdvantageFamily.com, if you wanted to check them out. They're kind of a hybrid between a major publisher and self-publishing. And what I liked about it, this is where they got my attention, was that they said, have you ever thought about writing a book? And I'm like, I think about it every day. In fact, I even have this ongoing Google document that I like to call a manifest, like my preliminary notes. I don't even know what this is. It's just taking me forever. But the idea,
it's like a rolling manuscript, right?
That's exact rolling manuscript. That's the word I was looking for. Oh. And I thought, well, how do you write a book? I said, well, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, or some would say with barbecue sauce. But I thought, let me just put a list of all the chapters down. I'm like, okay, cool. That took me a couple months, got all the chapters down. And then I came up with the title. And then I thought, well, what do you do after you got the chapters down? Well, let's just start putting bullet points under each chapter. And then after each bullet point, the bullet points turn into paragraphs, the paragraphs turn into actual chapters, right?
Yeah.
So I had 3 chapters done, and I would rather wake up every day and eat my pillow than write another chapter. And I told them that. A guy's name's Adam Whitty that owns he was the guy that originally created StubHub and then later sold it. He was a ticket broker in college and developed that and did really well, and decided he wanted to create a book publishing solution for entrepreneurs, speakers, and people that want to write a book, but also want to be marketed and also market that book, and not just I have a book and here it is. So they said, have you ever thought about writing a book? I go, I think about it every day, and I've got this hodgepodge ongoing, nightmare. And they said, well, we've got a program called Talk Your Book. And I thought, They said, yeah, we actually put together a editorial team, and we assign them to you, and we spend 8 hours recording you, asking you questions about your what you've come up with so far. What was the word you came up with? I keep saying manifesto. It's
manuscript.
Manuscript. There we go. Whatever hodgepodge manuscript you have, we're just going to interview you based on that, and we're going to elaborate. Well, we've had this thing. I'm like, perfect. I can talk for weeks. And so we did that, actually. That was, I'm like, let's talk.
And how many volumes do you want, right?
Yeah, really. We got volume 1, exactly. So we got, I think it was October, we agreed on a deal. November, we inked a deal. Wow. December, I recorded everything in about 6 days. I think they said I broke a record, and I had the first set of books at my door March 1st.
Wow.
Of last year. So it was, and they came to the table with a speaking gig. So I was like, this is a great deal. It cost me $25,000 to do the whole book, the whole enchilada, but they came to the table with a speaking gig right out of the gates, and then continue to market me, not as much as I'd like them to, but way more than a major publisher ever would. But I would have never got the book done. I'm not a huge reader because I have ADD, but I ended up writing the book. But it's my new business card, Scott. I'm not here to sell books. I'm here to, I'm here to make sure I stay on your desk forever.
That's great. Well, it's funny because I've been approached to write a book many times. Sure. And now that I'm away from Ford, Ford was my calling card before. Ford was my book, basically. It was a living case study. And now that I'm not there, the shine is wearing off the apple. And sure. and I think people would like to see a book. At least that's what I'm getting from the speaking half of my business, that you kind of need a book for legitimacy or what have you.
Sure.
My problem, and this is no slight at you, because I think your book was fantastic, is I don't want to write a book about social media, right? First of all, I don't want to just be known for social media. When I was at Ford, I was on corporate communications, and it had a lot more to do with the overall running of the business than just tweeting or working on Facebook updates. So I want to go more broadly than that. And the other thing is the market for social media speakers is a limited one, right? If you go broader to marketing and communications, or to business, or to thought leadership and inspirational kind of stuff, that now you're getting up to the level of like Tom Peters and Tony Robbins and the like. And I'm not comparing myself with them by any stretch of the imagination, but I want to move along that spectrum, right? So doing a book that is more broadly appealing to the business community is something that I've got in the back of my mind. I just need to work out the details on how to get there.
I say you write a Sherlock mystery that pertains to branding and business.
You don't want that. You do not want that. I consume those. I don't write them. Hey, I want to give a quick shout out to Nancy Merland, who's been engaging in the sidebar here. Hey, Nancy, it's good to see you.
What's happening, Nancy?
Glad to see you here.
Nancy! If you guys want to hop on, we got a couple more minutes. I cut this show. The show used to be an hour, and I cut it to 45 minutes because Facebook only allows 45 minutes of video. Not just a hat rack.
Good.
Just thought about this. If you guys have any quick questions, feel free to hop on. Make sure you're following Scott as well, at Scott Monty. I want to close the show out talking about Snapchat. Have you been Snapchatting at all?
I've tried it out. It's not intuitive the way most other apps are. That's what really gives me an issue with it. If I spent time with it, if I really focused on it, I'm sure I could. But I've got enough on my plate right now. Lately, and this is interesting, is I've been doing live video on Facebook every Sunday night,
which is being received extremely well.
Thank you very much. And it's integrated into my newsletter and into my business. And here's the thing: all this hype about live video and whatever the app of choice is, Meerkat, Periscope, Facebook, Blab.
Meerkat, what's that?
Yeah, right. It's counterintuitive to me, or at least it was. Mevi, that's another one. It's counterintuitive because we live in a day and age when 60% of people are watching television on a time-shifted basis. They're recording on DVR. They're binge-watching on Netflix. Live TV, except for sports and reality programming, is a thing of the past, almost. So why would people get interrupted while they're trying to do work at their computer, or when they're walking around the street with one of these, to watch your live video? So it's got to have value, right? You have to provide some value. You have to make it relatively short. It can't be an hour and a half long show unless it's really entertaining, right?
Right. Or
you're involving them in some way. And the other thing is there has to be some sort of predictability about it, which is why I program it. Right, it's appointment TV basically. So
right,
it's 9:30. I'm doing my Facebook thing, and for the people that do get involved, there's interaction. Now, there's not video interaction the way there is here on Blab, but I read the comments, I respond to people, and I try to make it two-way. And Nancy's point about replays, Facebook automatically archiving the video and allowing you to watch it whenever you want. That's extremely important as well. So I'm seeing this kind of thing evolving, and I think the brands that are starting to grapple with it, giving people behind the scenes tours, doing exclusive Q&As, other creative executions that actually bring value to their customers rather than act as a bragging point for the brand. I think those are the ones that are going to win.
They most definitely are, and one of the very first one I was blessed to have the opportunity to be involved with Applebee's Taste the Change campaign, and Brian Fanzo and Vincenzo Landino looped me in when they did their Taste the Change campaign and identified 20 influencers across the nation, and they brought Sunny D and Brian, everybody in the studio, and they broadcasted live from Applebee's. And then they were able to patch our individual periscopes in. So I'm over at Applebee's here in Miami, and they're patching me in, and I'm on Applebee's.com. And each influencer got about 5 minutes from each location to go, oh, the cinnamon churros are great, taste the change, what's up? They ended up keeping me on for 30-plus minutes, and I'm not saying, I was only for 30 minutes, but they kept me on for a reason, because I wasn't there just talking about a menu in churros you can dip in chocolate. Who cares about that, right? what I cared about, and I think the most important part, that would be me. The most important part was that a large brand, Applebee's, I don't give a rip what you think about their food. They have 14,000 locations, and they've been around for 20 plus years. They're a solid brand, but they're embracing technology. They were able to wrap their arms, and new technology too, like with live streaming. And there was no bragging. They were just letting people know we're giving free food away, you know?
Yeah.
Why more brands haven't done that? But you're right, Scott. Everybody wants a peek behind the curtain. That's all they want. They want to be able to interact and know and understand just because they feel entitled to, because we're so hyper connected these days.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I haven't been a big periscoper by any means.
Either.
It's just weird. I'm like, okay, so I'm talking to a bunch of people that are texting me. Awesome. And I get there's been a lot of hype around. I had Ryan Bell on the show last week that does the Periscope. They just did the Periscope Summit. And I get it. It's early adapters of live streaming. Everyone's getting together and sharing ideas. And there's some really cool stuff happening with live streaming. But you're right. The brands need to be able to put their anchor on the ground and say, hey, we're just here to help you see what you don't normally see. Let's see here. Carmel, Indiana. I know where that's at. I was born in Peru, Indiana.
You were. I was just in Carmel over the weekend.
If you drive through Peru and you blink, you'll miss it.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Totally. Well, we're out of time here, and I know we didn't cover nearly all the stuff we could cover in one show's time. But I wanted to at least get you on, number one, to catch up with you, and number two, let my audience know about your audience, etc. And that's what it's all about here, right?
Fantastic.
It really
I love it.
Well, you keep doing what you're doing there, Scott. And anything I can do to support you on this side of the bow tie, you don't hesitate to reach out.
Very kind of you.
Thanks so much for your time. I appreciate you, brother.
Great to see you.
Yeah, man. Likewise.
All right.
And just like that, another episode of the Social Media Suck Show is a wrap. Big thanks to my friend Scott Monty, digital strategist and bow tie extraordinaire, for being on the show today. That's what it's about, is talking about people's stories, talking about what brands are doing, what we've done, opinions, a couple jokes, a couple bow ties. We do this each and every week. Usually the show's on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but sometimes we mix it up. If you're tuned into our podcast on iTunes and you're maybe listening to this down the road, thanks so much for tuning in. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, hey, I appreciate you guys. And if you're on here live right now, I tell you, I appreciate you, because without you guys, the show doesn't happen. Well, it does, but that means I'm talking to myself. Hey, I'm Sebastian Rusk, signing off from our studio here in downtown Miami. We'll see you next time.